This is Kieran, Coach's Corner Chats, and on the podcast, I have C.W. Ponton. C.W., where are you at, and what are you up to?
I'm in Wilmington, North Carolina. I'm the head women's soccer coach, and I also have my own little private training business.
And what level is the spot that you're at right now?
So I'm at Cape Fear Community College in Wilmington, and we are an NJCAA program.
And this is my first junior college coach that I've spoken with. So what is that landscape like? Do you have them for 2 years, 4 years? What's kind of the look at your level?
Typically 2 years. You'll have the rare scenario where you may have somebody 3 years or 1 year, but most people are coming in to get the Gen Ed degree, which is knock out your general education classes for normally about a third of the price of anywhere else, and then get immediate playing time and then move on to a 4-year school should you choose to do so.
Do you find, what kind of players do you end up kind of recruiting into your program?
Anything from somebody who's wise enough to know that they're going to be paying, hundreds of dollars for the exact same class. And so they look at the cost-friendly option of coming to our school, as well as somebody who maybe wants to live at the beach. By the time that we're about halfway through this conversation, I could be sitting on the beach with my phone having the second half of this conversation probably. I could get there in less than 15 minutes from my house. So you've got people who want to save money. You've got people who want to live near the beach. You've got people who don't want to go to school in the middle of nowhere. And then you've got people who maybe don't know what they want to do academically, so they don't know what major they want to get into, so they just want to knock out the general education classes. And then you've got people who felt that they were overlooked as well, and so they want to come in and prove themselves on the junior college level before they move on to a 4-year school. Once again, should they choose to do so, you would be surprised. You would think that most players going to junior college are looking to transfer into a 4-year school, and maybe it's due to location, but I will say that more than half of my players have absolutely no interest of going to a 4-year school, no matter what the level of program is coming after them after their 2 years here.
So what do you think it is about once they get there that makes them kind of decide that, I've enjoyed this, and then I'm just going to focus on maybe life and what have you after my time with you?
It varies, everybody. That's one thing that I like about being a 2-year route is everyone's path is very different. You've got some people who they need to get that 4-year degree for the job that they want. I had one because I just moved from being the men's coach since 2016 to the women's coach this past January. So I'm still very tight. We had our banquet last night, so I was with all the guys and leading the men's side of the banquet for soccer within our athletic department last night. But we got one young man, he did 2 years here playing for me. And after getting his associate's degree, he's going into a lineman certification. So he's going to be working on phone lines and stuff. And that entry level is about $25 an hour. And it's a 10-week certificate. And so he was like, really, I don't want to go to a 4-year school. He's got more of that blue collar type personality. And he's like, I could come right out of college after 2 years college, making $25 an hour. And so you see a lot of stuff like that where, I had one young man, he had 28 schools trying to pick him up from me. And I probably could have added on to that if I put a little more effort in. And he started working for the beach here in town and started working his way up the officiating ranks. And so, now he's refereeing college games, semi-pro games. So in his eyes, he's like, why would I go somewhere else? And so that's a lot of what you see is just everybody's on their own path. A lot of people, they come here, they realize that, okay, it made a lot of sense to go to a school like Cape Fear for financial reasons. And it doesn't make sense to go to that big, we call them, sweater schools. I'm sure you know what I'm talking about, right? There's no reason to go to that sweater school just to say that I went to that sweater school when chances are I'll get 2 more years into the workforce and could even do online classes at said school or another school. And then that person's going to be 2 years behind me. And so I think that in my experience coaching at a 4-year school, coaching at a 2-year school, coaching at a 2-year school kind of in the middle of nowhere, and then coaching at a 2-year school in a very populated area with just under 30,000 students, like if you had all our students together, uh, they mature. If they're willing to, they mature really fast. And so they have a good grasp on life and the importance of like workforce and how a degree really varies these days. Like not everybody needs a degree. A general degree in what a lot of people get, and it's around 80%, right? Change their major. I know I did, and I transferred. And so you look at stuff like that, and I think by listening to myself and listening and meeting former players that have played here, everybody's on a different path. Every year I send players on to 4-year schools to play. I send players on to 4-year schools to be a student, and then you see plenty of players too that are like, actually, you know what? I like this job and I'm working my way up the ranks and I'm making good money. So it doesn't make any sense to go spending money to live at another college, to pay, the tuition for said school. I'm a big proponent myself of like, get an associate's degree, get into the workforce, and you could do school online and do your internships and everything.
The one thing I was going to ask too is, at what point as you were growing up, did you decide, what, coaching might be something I'd like to get into?
So I started coaching at 16, pretty young, and I was just coaching little kids, and I worked my way. By the time I was out of high school, I had coached, I believe it was ages like 4 through 13, and then was like a player coach on our high school's indoor team. Because coaches couldn't coach out of season back then. I don't know what the rules are now. I haven't coached high school or middle school or nothing in years. But back then, and especially like where I'm from in Virginia, our coach couldn't be involved at all out of the season, anything with the ball. So the athletic director put me in charge of the program. So I dabbled a little bit kind of, I guess, in coaching high school and coached ages 4 through 13 recreationally as well. And I didn't have any plans. I wanted to be a teacher. And I wanted to teach like 2nd or 3rd grade, and I went to a small Division II school in North Carolina for a couple of years, and I didn't see it panning out well for me due to location, and so I transferred after 2 years, and it was a small Baptist school, so I transferred and I took credits with me, but because I went from Christian school to Christian school, they didn't really transfer, so I practically started all over again. And then I changed my major to sport management. So what would have been 4 years or so turned into 6 years and some change, because I transferred, then I changed my major. So I decided at about 22 years old or so, a gentleman that became a mentor of mine and has become a good friend came and spoke to my class in 2011. He came and spoke to my sport management class about what it's like being a college coach. And at the time, I was just a student. I was, I believe I might have been like on the lacrosse team at the time. I don't even remember. I was helping run soccer leagues within the local church. Like they had a nice sized recreation program within the church. And so I was working with that, and I was playing indoor soccer. And I think I might have been on the college's lacrosse team too. And I just decided that I really wanted to change the direction of my life and pursue. I loved what he was talking about. I was trying to figure out what did I want to do within the sport world, because I had decided that I didn't want to deal with the politics of being a teacher. And so I took a beeline in my life, and that's what changed. I started coaching at 16, but it was 2011 when I definitely decided, like, yeah, this is what I want to do, but I had no idea how to do it. I was not playing college soccer. So I was like, how do I go about this?
So then I love the fact that this kind of was the light bulb moment for you to say, this is where I want to go. So then you just said, but how? So what was the next step? How did you make this move?
So the next step, and I've got him right here somewhere. I was showing him to my girlfriend yesterday. She was looking at my rings. Next step was a sport management major. So I started, I don't want to say like I harassed said guy. His name is Adam Godwin. He's actually now the men's soccer coach at Randolph College, so just up the street from Liberty. At the time, he was the Liberty women's assistant. And I just was always in his office, like right here. Let's see if I hopefully don't drop my phone. But like, he became a good mentor for me. This is my Bible. It's my regular FCA Bible. He gave that to me. just from me being nosy in his office, trying to see what books did this gentleman have, and how could I maybe learn something from the books that he had. I realized that he had two of these, and I did not ask for it, but he gave me one, and here it is sitting at my desk still today. And I, as a sport management major, you're required to kind of like intern for a sport team, and I saw men's soccer, and so I interned for men's soccer, and they found out that not only did I have a background in photography, but videography. My mom worked for a newspaper when I was younger, and I got a lot of opportunities from that and won some photography awards and whatnot. So they took advantage of that, and they had me do all of our videography anywhere. And I used to follow the goalkeeper coaches around because I grew up playing hockey and being a goalie. And I've always just been enamored with goalies in every sport. And I've played lacrosse, soccer, and hockey goalie myself. And I used to follow the goalkeeper coach around and had him help him set up his drills and break them down, and just trying to learn about goalkeeping. And I was on this top 25 nationally ranked Division I program where I was getting behind the scenes access to what an elite men's soccer team looked like. And I befriended multiple guys that went on to play professional. And at the same time, I was helping run this youth soccer league and being like a unofficial assistant director, I guess you could say, and really just finding like the path, doing everything I could to like get in the right setting, the right mentors, being mentored by the men's head coach, the women's assistant coach at Liberty, and just like building context, trying to figure out what did I need to do, and like reading their bios and learning what courses did they take, things like that. Like I was going to the extreme to try and figure out what could I do to not necessarily get where they are, but get in a similar position.
What were some of the things that you picked up from not only the book itself, but what were some of the things that you picked up from their coaching styles or philosophies or how they ran their program that you took away and you try to put into your program currently?
So to me, in my sense, I used to work for Adam Godwin's camps, and obviously now, in his private training business, well, now I have my own private training business, and I learned the importance of technique from Adam, and how to implement other philosophies into that. So, like at our camps that I worked for him with, like there would be a like motto for the day, and how you can implement things like that, like life choices, and how you can make the design, the setting, and the session around something in particular. For Jeff Alder, who was the head men's coach at the time, I definitely learned the importance of being like personable and like always being there and being very kind. Like I don't know if you could find someone who's a more kind gentleman, and just like I was labeled as like equipment manager on the team, but I didn't play that role like some of the other guys did. I had like a different type of a setting of a role within the program. I was doing it as a student within a certain reason, and I actually was on scholarship my second semester for the team, and so like very personal. I would show up to his office just like I did to Adam, not quite as much, because I even back then I realized that there's a difference between taking up a head coach's time and taking the assistant coach's time. And so I used to pop in Adam's office all the time unannounced, to where with Jeff Alder, it was more so popping in here and there if he knew that I was going to be over that way. But definitely like very personable, very like caring guy. And I try and take those two. I'm very big on technique now, and I guess you could say that I kind of picked that up from Adam. And then I try and be very personable with everybody that I can. And I'm sure that I picked some of that off of Coach Alder, and as well as my other coach, the coach that I was an assistant for at the first college that I was at. Definitely those two like just showed how important it is to be very personable as a head coach.
The one thing too you mentioned was just kind of your changing majors, changing schools, and what have you. How important is that when you're at the junior college level and you're dealing with like a different variety? It seems like every kid that comes in has a different story coming in, and has a different direction that they're going in. So how important is it, one, that you've gone through similar kind of experience, and two, that you kind of are able to share that with them?
I think it's huge. I think it's absolutely huge. To where if you had someone who came into maybe they went to a state school 4 years, straight through the state school, straight into whatever major, maybe they played 4 years of ball and went professional and whatnot, they can't relate. You can't. It's not going to be the same. To where I don't come from a rich family. I definitely come from like a lower middle class, and I come from, kind of the middle of nowhere, Virginia. It's farmland for the most part, and I can relate to a lot of our players because they're trying to save finances, and they're trying to better themselves without, putting themselves in financial debt. Which I can say that no one older than me went to college in my family. Behind me, some have, and my cousins and such. But my mom went to community college. My dad didn't go to school, and you'd be surprised because you think my dad's very intelligent. That just goes to show like college education is not everything. But just the fact of that, I kind of had to learn that route on my own. I think definitely pays off huge for when it comes to me talking to my players, sitting them down, and trying to figure out what's the best next step. I'm never going to tell them or force them to do anything, right? Because I don't want them to be resentful towards me. And I tell them the same thing, like in regards to their parents, like listen to your parents, listen to my advice. This is why you should listen to my advice. But in the end, it's your decision.
How excited were your parents, one, that you did battle through, and then two, how excited are they for you as a coach?
So battling through in regards to like the grind of learning how to become a coach, or like through college?
Yeah, just the whole putting yourself out there, going and putting the time in. As when you said earlier you were named equipment manager, but for you it's a lot bigger than that.
Oh yeah. I was making big moves behind the scenes that only those who I was working for knew. Most people thought I was crazy, including my family. They didn't understand. I know that like my dad always wanted me to, I think as every dad does, you want your kids to like surpass whatever it is that you do. You want the best for them. But he didn't really understand, but he was always supportive. But I can say that not all, my family was not supportive, but they just didn't quite understand. Like I had a bigger picture. Like I was like, I'm not going to be like a 9-to-5 type worker. Like that's not my style. It's definitely not my personality. I work, and what happens is when you become a coach, you work way more, way more than 9-to-5. But I don't think it really even clicked for all my family until I graduated from college. I went back and I coached in my own high school, and I was the head varsity and JV coach. And then I moved back because I was there taking care of my grandmother at the time. Then I moved back next to Liberty, back in the same house that I was in, and I was coaching like U9s and got back in the refereeing, which I love refereeing actually. And there was no other options of teams to coach because I had moved back so late, so I just picked up this U9 team. And then I got on staff at Lynchburg College, which is now University of Lynchburg, with the women's team there. And I think it took winning that national championship with that program for my dad to really grasp what I was doing. And then it was just trying to make the right life decisions after being on that staff. And then my mom actually became sick, and then my mom passed away in 2016. But you could tell that she was very proud that I was pursuing something that made me happy. But it was definitely very trying. I'm not going to go into all the details of it, but there were many moments where there was very little money and there was no opportunity to go do anything because I was prioritizing my future, which meant giving my time for experience, not my time for money. And so when I was at my first college, actually in Lynchburg, I worked in the cafeteria 25 hours a week, and then I was the goalkeeper coach. So I had definitely gone down that goalkeeper route because I was like, this would be a good opportunity for me to kind of get my foot in the door at a program.
Where did this this kind of internal drive come from? I'm going to go and meet with the assistant coach numerous times over and over again. I'm going to go talk to the varsity coach. I'm going to, while I'm not at the field, I'm going to be putting in some work to earn money so I can spend more time at the field. Like, where did this kind of drive come from that you have?
I think you could ask you could ask anyone around me, like close family, friends. I have a very I'm going that way personality, and you can come with me or not. And I think that paid off for me when it came to like, this is what I want's over there. How do I get there? And I had such like tunnel vision, like, this is what I want. What do I need to do? What are the people who are already there telling me I need to do? And then just doing it and putting on blinders to anyone who says otherwise, because clearly they don't understand. They can't see the big picture.
The other thing is, what was it like to be a part of Lynchburg who won that national title? Like, what an amazing experience. What do you think set that team apart from the others that they ran into during the season? Like, how were they so successful? What was it?
In my eyes, it's seniority leadership. It was not, wow, look how skilled this team is, or, the coaching staff is like perfect in every fashion. It was the coaching staff was like everything was balanced. You had 3 men on staff, you had 3 women on staff. You had a combination of former players, 3 graduate assistant former players, and then you had myself, who was goalkeeper coach. You had a long tenure head coach who's still there, and then you had a gentleman that was my age that was the other assistant, and it was like everything was so balanced, and there was never any like players holding grudge or like trying to prioritize themselves. It was always like for the team. Everything was for the team. If you were at the bottom of the team, you were still hyped for us winning games, and you could see that. And the leadership from the juniors and seniors was crucial the whole way through. And I think in my eyes, that was a big difference, having that junior and senior leadership, and then having such a balanced coaching staff that was willing to work together. And like, it seemed like pretty much everybody was willing to put ego aside for the benefit of the program. And you can find one person could screw that over for everybody, right? But if you look at that team, and then we kind of got on this run, right? We didn't lose a single game. Like, if you look at the record, I think it's like 27-0-1. That wasn't a loss, and it wasn't a tie. It was the Elite 8 where we won off of kicks from the spot and moved us into the Final Four. So that team got kicked out, and we moved on. But just with the way the NCAA keeps records, that's what it says. Like, we won every game, and you could just see like momentum starting to build. Like, we took this trip up to New Jersey, and we beat Rowan, and that was hard. It was a hard game. Like, those girls were tough, and you could kind of see like we made this long trip up there. We won the game, and everything just started like we were like, like something's happening here. And then when we got into the national tournament, like the girls were counting it down, like legitimately counting it down. How many games to go to win the ship? And like in the locker room, it's like 5 down, 4 to go, 3 down, 2 to go. Like, they knew it, and they just had that like positive mentality around each other. And I think that's what it was. I definitely think the head coach, you remove the head coach or almost any piece, and it's not going to play out like that. But Coach Olson, I mean, amazing. He's such an amazing guy.
The one thing that clearly, from Alder to some of the other ones at your first stop, and then now, you have nothing but like the highest level of respect for the coaches in terms of how they carried themselves and how they ran their program. At what point do you take all of that experience and then is your next jump to become a head coach?
Well, I am a head coach. So, in regards to, are you saying at a 4-year school?
Like after you got done at Lynchburg, what was the
Okay.
transition? What was the next thing to do? You've gone through, you've crushed all this, surrounded
Yeah.
yourself by great coaches and
Yeah.
amazing experiences. What's next?
This is where times kind of got dark, right? And you would think that the emotion and the excitement from winning this national championship would have been, I mean, everything you ever wanted. I mean, I ain't gonna lie, I was a grown man crying on the field, right? Biggest person on the field, and I'm sitting there like bawling because I had never thought anything like that was gonna happen, and it changed my life. I mean, that moment changed the outcome of the future. Because take that national championship away, take it off the resume, right? Take the opportunity that Coach Olson gave me away. Life would not be playing out. We wouldn't be having this conversation. And so, I think the moves that I made prior, but I think that was the pivotal moment that changed everything. And so then it was sitting down with Coach Olson privately and having a conversation with him on what do I do next, right? I'm not getting paid. I'm working in the cafeteria. I don't mind it. Should I look to go elsewhere? Like, you can't pay me. And it was yes. You should go elsewhere. So I had a notepad of every single place that I applied to. And I would say from the time that I graduated college in 2012 till about 2016, it was about over 800 applications. Yeah. And it was just every day, multiple times a day. As soon as a job popped up, if that was a good opportunity, swing on it. If I think it's a good opportunity, swing on it. If it's at least somebody that I should apply to so that I can like create conversation, swing on it, right? Because I'm already not getting paid here. So if it's something, at least look at it. And that was not the way that he worded it, but that was kind of what he was hinting at. Was like, what more do you win after you win a national championship, right? Like, what else am I supposed to earn here, right? Like, I'm not gonna get my goalkeeper let in 5 goals all season. Like, what more do you want, right? And so, man, I was busting my butt, and on August 10th, a small junior college, 14 hours from family, I think 12 hours from where I was living at the time in Lynchburg, found me on, I think LinkedIn. Yeah, LinkedIn. Found me on LinkedIn, and this guy was looking for a first assistant and a goalkeeper coach on something like, I don't know. It was like a little over $2,000 a year stipend, but free housing with him in a house that the school owned and free food. And I went to Coach Olson, like I wasn't getting anything else. Like nobody was giving me a shake. It was like doors getting closed left and right. People not even replying to me, and even people that like he recommended me to not replying. And I was like, all right. 10 days later, I'm packed up. Me and my little dog were loaded up in the truck. Got a U-Haul behind the truck, and 12 hours away, here I come. I've never been there. I've only talked to the guy on the phone. And that was my first taste of dealing with heavily international teams. And those guys were great. Like we had players from England, from British Virgin Islands, from Sweden, Australia, and then Florida, Georgia, and Alabama. I believe that's where, I don't think I missed anything. And so that's where the players were all from. So a lot of diversity. And we were a nationally ranked team for a little while there, and then we kind of hit a bad slump, unfortunately. But it was in the middle of nowhere, and I wasn't really getting paid anything. And probably worse in regards to like where I'm at, in the middle of nowhere, where I grew up at. And so it was hard because there was like no one my age there, so there was nothing to do. I spent a lot of time playing some FIFA, shooting my bow and arrow in the backyard, and practicing my guitar, and I did that, and I hit the weight room. When I played football in high school, I didn't even hit the weight room, and I was hitting the weight room 6-7 days a week, man, just to have something to do. But I'll say that like I'm very thankful because it introduced me to not only coaching men in college, but coaching junior college. And my relationship with my dad really took off. Not that it was never bad, but it really flourished in that time because I had nothing to do. And my dad had to retire when I was a freshman in college. He got hurt on the job. So we had a lot of free time to talk, and our relationship really took off to another level. And so I'm very thankful for the things that I got out of that. Like, it was a very hard few months not having anything to do, no one to spend time with that was anywhere around my age. Like I couldn't hang out with players, and then the rest of the coaches that were either married or they were significantly older than me or very different personalities and older than me. And so it was a lot of time to myself, which I've never had a problem with. But when you're doing it for months, like, that's a little different. But no, I mean, and I didn't mind being at that school for the time that I was there, but as soon as the season was up, I was looking for the next thing. And I had some interest from Division III school that kind of like unofficially gave me an offer, and a Division I school who actually told me that they couldn't give me what my resume matched, like the opportunity of finances or coaching club, like they didn't have any clubs in their area. And then like the finances that we would offer you doesn't match like your resume. We're looking for like true entry level assistance. And so it was just trying to figure out the next step from there. I actually moved back in with my family and got back into refereeing 6-7 days a week again, which like I said, I love refereeing. I really do. I wish I could do it now, but when you got a training business, a college team, and 2 kids in the house, like I don't have time. And so I moved back in with my dad for a little while, and once again, like I'm blasting, like I'm on the same path with the job search and trying to take the next step, and talking to Adam, talking to Coach Olson, and seeing what their recommendations are, seeing if they knew anything that was open. That's kind of how I got pushed to that Division III school, which I have a great relationship with them now, even though I didn't get on staff there. Unfortunately, the head coach's chain kind of got jerked. It wasn't his fault. Like he showed me all around and offered me the position, but it wasn't his fault that it got taken away from him. And it was on Indeed. Like I was on every website. Like I was on NCAA Job Market. I was on Monster.com. I don't even know if these sites still exist. I was on Indeed. I was on LinkedIn. Like I'm talking like every single day. I was on everything multiple times a day. And I got this job through Indeed. And the way that, I'm not gonna lie, the way I probably got this job is that Adam Goblin sat in class with my athletic director back in 2005, and they weren't friends, but they knew each other because one was on the basketball team and one was on the soccer team. And so me kind of harassing Adam in 2011 and 12, years down the road in 2016, paid off for me. And so, yes, I went to the same college as my athletic director because I had built those connections. That kind of opened the door because I had done so much work prior. And I moved here June 1st, 2016 as the head men's coach. And I only just became the women's coach back in January, just recently.
Was there ever a point in this experience where you said, maybe this isn't going to work out? Like maybe this isn't for me. Do I need to start thinking of plan B or C or D or whatever? Because amazing, just like the experiences and you're bouncing around, but you're trying to find that fit. Like you clearly that one place you're at, great to be around like the men's players and different, coming from all different kinds of culture and what have you, but clearly not a good fit for you in terms of I have to have something to do off the field as well. Yeah. So was there a time ever that you said, maybe this isn't going to work out?
Oh yeah. When I left and moved down to Georgia, I was working for the minor league baseball team, and I was coaching, on a national championship team. And I had it like financially, it was tough, very tough, like month to month, tight, super tight every month. And thankfully, like family was still being a little bit supportive there, here and there. But I was trying to do it all on my own as much as possible. And when I was down in Georgia, I really was like, is this even worth it? Right? And because I guess I had the interest in myself, unlike after Lynchburg, after Andrew, I had interest in me for a change. And I was going around and I was visiting colleges and I was taking tours with the head coaches, and it was going great. And they were very honest. They're like, you're in our final two, you're in our final three. We want to offer you this position. Like those were the conversations now. Unlike having sheets and sheets in a notepad of places that I applied to so I could keep track, and not getting getting responses. And so when I left and I moved back to Virginia with family, I guess I had that drive and no one really understood. And my dad he grasped it, right? He knew what I was doing. And, he and I actually even would drive out to schools and look at schools, and he would drop me off to go talk and visit school and whatnot. But at that point, I think I had my mind made up. I don't care at this point. I've invested so much time that I'm gonna do this. And when I came to Cape Fear, I'm not gonna lie, that the intention was to be here 2 or 3 years, and then try and get back. The plan was 2 or 3 years, and then try and get back as a head coach, ideally on the Division III women's side. That was the goal, right? Well, here we are over 6 seasons later, and I'm still here. And the intention was never actually to go to the women's side, because I had invested so much time into the men's program. But I was offered the team again in the women's program here, and I guess I was ready for some change. I'd been here for a while, and I was just ready to look at it differently, ready for some change. So I didn't want to leave the school, and I didn't want to leave the area. So I was like, okay, yeah. And it took some time, honestly, because I had emotionally invested a lot into the men, and I was inheriting very little, and I was leaving behind a lot in regards to players. I had multiple players that I had relationships with from the club level, because I picked up a club team for just a little bit, and I had really invested a lot into these young men. And I mean, you would have thought it was a funeral when I brought them in. They had no idea. When I brought them in and I told them that I was stepping down as their coach to move over to the women's side, I mean, it was it looked like a funeral. That's how rough it was, and you could just tell that they were pretty upset about it. But I keep track of it. Obviously, I was hanging out with all the guys last night, though, and making sure that they're all good. And I told them, in their tenure here, whatever they need help moving on to a 4-year school or whatnot. I know one of them, he's working on his highlight video, so he's going to send it to me soon. Whatever I can do for those players, I still look at them. They're still my players. I recruited them. I brought them in here. I spent the whole season with them. It's just in the spring, we decided the other coach and I, we decided to flip-flop. But I'm excited. I brought on a great assistant coach. She's coming in with 19 years of college coaching experience on the junior college women's level, and we're busting our butt, man. So I'm loving what we're doing right now and the moves that we're making for this program. We expect to be competing as a nationally ranked team again this coming season.
What has it been like? So you've gone through all this driving and pushing and going, and now here you are, 6 years. You've started to create what sounds like a really close-knit group on the men's side, and here you are. It seems like you're invested in Cape Fear, you love the area, all that type of stuff. How gratifying is it to be able to feel like, I've kind of set roots a little bit, and I'm creating something that is all my doing in a way, not to sound selfish, but you have created and built this Cape Fear program on the men's side, and now you're super excited. It sounds like already busting it to do it on the women's side. How awesome is it now to be at this point, looking back on all that you've kind of gone through?
Well, it's crazy to me that I'm 33 and I'm the longest tenure coach at our school. And so just being there, doing that, and I know the ins and outs of things. I have a great relationship with everybody in our department. It's very gratifying because, I mean, look at where I was, after Lynchburg and after Andrew, and not really knowing how was life going to play out. And now I own this small training business, and I'm still a head coach at Cape Fear. And it's nice to be able to look back on. We've got our alumni game coming back on the 30th, and a bunch of my former players are psyched, like they were blowing me up, trying to, uh, you know, find out, hey coach, when's the alumni game? And no joke, just now as I was saying that, like I met with a recruit and her family today. Like I said, busting our butts to like making sure. So for me, it's big on with. I get 4-year school players that transfer to me all the time, and what they were told was not how it played out. Right? I'm huge on like, this is everything you're gonna see. This is what you should expect. If this happens, this is how we go about it. And I just got a thank you text from a player that I was walking around our campus with her family this morning. And so like that's the thing. Like I want to be very personable. And I learned that a lot from Coach Alder. And not saying that Adam wasn't. I think that just like looking at how personal a head coach needed to be. And so, just little just little things like that. I think go a long way. And knowing that, okay, we're setting up the right path for building this women's program the way we want it to look. We want it to be a competitive program. But more than winning games, right, it's the impact that you make on the players. I've got players that started 1 game in 2 years, and they still hit me up all the time. And when you make an impact like that on a player, like that's what it's about to me. Because in years down the road, we might remember that, remember how rough that one season was, but we're not going to remember all the details of how it was. We're going to remember like how we went through that rough time together, or how great it was when we had that successful season. But we're not even going to remember like all the ins and outs of it. We're just going to remember how we felt about it and the good times. And so to me, that's what it's about. But it's nice to be able to sit back and look at how I built this training business that I have, and kind of mimicking what Adam, what I learned from him, and making it into my own image that I liked, and then taking what I learned from Adam and Coach Olson and Coach Alder, and really like building, Cape Fear off of what I've picked up from these really prestigious coaches, and carrying it over into Cape Fear. So no, I mean, I love it here. I love where I live. I love being able to invest in the school, invest in the program, and so it was definitely a hard transition, I think, mentally to move from being the men's coach to the women's coach, especially when I saw like the reaction from these guys that I brought in, and they were all like hyped, because we had a rough season due to like serious injuries. Like, we didn't have a goalie most of the season, so the players are like, man, like if we had not had injuries and I lost him or him, we would have been making waves, because we were still competitive. Most of the time, the opponents didn't even know we had a attacking mid and goal, right? They had no idea. And he did an okay job. He's just athletic, but I think if they had a goalkeeper coach on the sideline, they'd be like, who is that? And so I was on the sideline. I was like, move over, and trying to like help the guy get where he needed to be. But like we're still competitive, and I think they were excited for the quality of freshmen and how that was going to be coming back. So I'm gonna be watching them. I'll be going to their games, and a lot of them that come out to my private training business and to get some extra reps in. So I keep tabs on how things are going, and I like to make sure that they're doing okay mentally, academically, like whatever they're trying to do in regards to moving on to a 4-year school or just going into the workforce. Like, I still look at them as they're my players. I've just handed them over, but I want to make sure that they're doing okay.
The one thing I think is unique is the fact that you only have them for 2 years, and you make such a strong bond with them. How do you go about doing that? I mean, there's people that spend 4 years with a coach, as you probably know from experience with some of these players, who don't have that close connection with their teammates or with their coaches. And here you are with them for 2 years, and guys are, like you said, it was a funeral feeling when they heard that you were moving on. They were so excited. And now you've already got girls that are hyped to join the Cape Fear program.
I think just being open and being personable. Like, my kids are at practice. I pick them up from school. They come to practice with me. Everybody knows I play ice hockey. Like, they'll be asking, hey, how'd your, Monday morning, if we have practice fitness, or Monday evening if we have practice, the players like, how'd your game go yesterday, coach? Because they know I play on Sundays, and so, it's just being personal, showing that you're a human being, right? You're not just there for the job, right? If I was just there for the money and for the job, I would have left here to try and chase another position. But I like being here. I like carrying a smaller squad. And you can't build those relationships with players if they're not willing to build them with you. So I'm not trying to say it's not perfect. Like, not every player works out. Not every player wants to build that relationship with his teammates or the coaching staff. What I always say is, coaches have favorites. And normally my favorites are the ones at the end of the bench, because they're there, they love it, they grind day in, day out. Like, they're a pivotal backbone of the program. And a lot of the time, those are the players that I have the great relationships with years later. The ones that were sitting at the end of the bench. And I love you, man. I love you. But I can't put you in right now, type of a scenario, right? And it's just being truthful. But I make sure that, I think a difference between being here and at a 4-year school, every player plays, even down to the third string goalkeeper. Every player plays, because at the end of the day, my athletic director wants me to coach the team to be competitive and to aim to win as many games as we can. But he wants retention, and he wants good graduation rate. He wants good grades, and he wants helping them land in whatever direction they want to after Cape Fear. And so there's not that stress of, people are like, oh, well, you're not a Division I coach. I've seen stuff like that on social media, because I do a lot on TikTok, and I like to teach people stuff through, like, my little clips on TikTok. And I'm like, you're right. And I will never coach a Division I program, because it's a different lifestyle, right? I wouldn't be able to play ice hockey and coach my little ones U18 and run a training business and make my own schedule, right? I wouldn't be able to do that stuff. And so I love coaching the junior college route, because there's that, it's different. It's a different mold, right? The academic stress is not as heavy on the players. And I think it's just a totally different atmosphere. And so I love it, because, and I've got no intention of doing any other college level at all, because I see players that I bring them here, they can get jobs, internships, they get to enjoy the beach life and everything that we have to offer around here with their free time. And we try and really invest within the 2 years that they're here. But like I said, it doesn't work out for everybody. It's not going to. But I really like when I bring a transfer in here and it pans out for them in the 1 year that they're here, as opposed to at their 4-year school. And I think at the 4-year school, it's much more of a business. It's much more of a job, to where here there's not as much stress. Like, okay, we must win the game. We must bring in recruits that are going to win us the games. There's not that level of expectation. Like, we already feel we're going to be competitive, right? We already feel we're going to be close. I can say without any doubt in my mind, you don't take my goalkeepers away this past season, like, we're pushing for the conference. Like, no doubt in my mind. But life doesn't always play out that way. And you know what, though? I could tell you multiple things that have happened since then that could be benefiting me in the long run, could be benefiting one of those goalkeepers that's transferring out in the long run. Like, life played out in certain manners. And we'll find out in about 4 or 5 years, like, maybe having that rough season really benefited to mentally strengthen those freshmen, to help the transfers move on, and moving me over to the women's side to kind of get a mental reset. You don't never know. Like, we'll find out about 5 years or so.
This has been awesome, because it's been giving some insight into, like, the junior college side of things. And also the fact, I love hearing the story of how you've persevered to get to where you're at now. If people want to connect and maybe find out more about Cape Fear or just the junior college experience, or how you've gotten to where you're at, what are some ways people can connect with you?
So me directly, or our school?
You.
Me. Okay. So I run our social medias with Cape Fear Women's Soccer. So on Facebook, it's Cape Fear Women's Soccer. On Instagram, it's Cape Fear WSoc. And Twitter's Cape Fear WSoc, I think. So if you at me, like, it's gonna pop up and I'll see it on Twitter, or you can message me on Instagram or on Facebook, or you can email me at Ponton, which is my last name, PONTON @cfcc.edu. If email is your preference and you have any questions there. But I like to get back to everybody that I can whenever they message me or anything. Like I said, I do stuff on my own social medias through my training business as well. And so, yeah, if they have any questions, like, feel free to reach out. Like, Like I said, it's one thing that I like about being at the junior college route is I have a lot more free time, which allows me to be more personable.
I will be sharing all of those things in the clip notes for this episode. This has been awesome. I'm going to shut this thing down. This is Karen with Coach's Corner Chats with C.W. Ponton, and I'm out. Peace.